biggest opportunity you have from Harvard Business School is to go out and make a ton of money.
The first person who congratulated me when I got into HBS said, congratulations, don't become an asshole.
It seemed like an awful lot of work and an awful lot of pressure, when I first started.
For more than a century, it's been one of the most demanding and elite institutions in the world. From Silicon Valley to Washington to Wall Street, many of the biggest names of our times have one thing in common. They survived Harvard Business School. 2 years, $160,000, and an infinite amount of stress.
People are really nervous at the beginning. You're in a room with 90 people who are incredible, and probably more incredible than you think you are.
Its alumni include the famous...
You do feel inferior at times. You do feel overwhelmed at times.
And the infamous.
Getting your master's, and where did you go to school?
Harvard Business School.
In Harvard Business School.
There are graduates who made a killing, others happy to be living.
Harvard in a large way helped save my life.
And one student who made it here against all odds.
My mother came to Kingston to get a better life. She's ecstatic that now I'm getting to fulfill her dreams.
And now, an unprecedented look behind the ivy-covered walls. Hello, I'm Carl Quintanilla. Like the columns that support its signature bell tower, Harvard Business School has become a pillar of the establishment, turning out a dazzling roster of movers and shakers. It's done this by putting the best and the brightest through a program so rigorous, so competitive. This has been called the West Point of capitalism. What attracts them, and what does it take to make it? Our story begins in the summer of 2008, 1,700 miles away, with a young woman about to set off on the journey of her life. The road to Harvard Business School can begin anywhere, even here in Kingston, Jamaica. That's where Lysandra Rickards, 24 years old, is saying her last goodbyes.
That was a good trip. Make us proud.
There's reason for celebration. Lysandra will soon be leaving home for an adventure most of us will never experience, becoming one of Harvard Business School's select few. She's the first person in her working-class family to go to college, and she's beaten the odds. Just 900 students were admitted out of the more than 8,600 who applied.
I was really ecstatic because it was the only business school that I applied to in the United States. My mother was in love with the idea of Harvard University. That was her dream, and I guess right now she's ecstatic that now I'm getting to fulfill her dream for me.
That dream has a price tag, a big one, about $80,000 a year, which covers tuition and housing. For Lysandra, most of that will be covered by scholarships. After earning an undergrad degree in economics at the University of Chicago, she spent this last year back in Kingston working at the Ministry of Finance.
The number one inhibitor to economic growth for Jamaica is our debt levels. So I got an amazing opportunity with the Minister of Finance to work on a project setting up Jamaica as an international financial center.
Once she's armed with her Harvard education, Lysandra hopes to return to Jamaica and help turn around its troubled economy.
So it's hard to leave again so soon after I came back, but I'm very excited about what lays ahead.
A few weeks later, it's orientation day at Harvard Business School. An army of students descend upon the Boston campus just across the river from Harvard University. And there really is ivy on the buildings. Lysandra is about to gather with her classmates, all 900 of them, for the first time. There's a sense of anxiety and anticipation as the school term officially begins. Across campus, Dean Jay Light puts the final touches on the welcome speech he'll give in less than an hour.
The idea is to set the tone at the top of it's going to be a lot of hard work. It's going to be like drinking from a fire hose. There's going to be many more than 24 hours worth of work that has to get done every 24 hours.
I would imagine that the mood around here is like a big combustion engine that is about to fire up.
Yeah, I think they come eager, apprehensive, a little worried, A lot of them think that they may be the admissions mistake.
Dean Light knows exactly how they feel. He first arrived here in 1968 as a student himself.
I was very nervous when I was in their shoes. I said to myself, oh my goodness.
What have I gotten myself
What
into?
have I gotten myself into?
That sentiment is shared by alumni all over the world, including some of our nation's most successful business leaders. Meg Whitman is the former CEO of eBay. She graduated from Harvard Business School in 1979.
It seemed like an awful lot of work and an awful lot of pressure, when I first started. It was scary, there's no question about it. And the guy on my right had been in the military for 6 years and had, been in charge of thousands of troops. And you know how they tell you in the first, look to your right, look to your left. It's in all likelihood one of the three of you will be gone. So I looked to my left, I looked to my right, and I said, ooh, this maybe doesn't look so good for me.
Whitman, of course, ended up doing pretty well. And as this class assembles for the first time, one can only wonder who among them will become part of the new generation of corporate superstars. Will they be like the class of 1982, with heavy hitters like Jamie Dimon, chairman of J.P. Morgan Chase, and Jeff Immelt, CEO of CNBC's parent company, GE? Or perhaps the class of 1970, with U.S. Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson, or 1966, the year New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg graduated. Pick almost any year, and there's an HBS grad who's made a big impact on society, has become extremely rich, or both.
And understand the most important lesson to learn is that while individually you can be very good, collectively, if you put your mind to it, you can be great. That's really what the next 2 years is all about, and what the secret of success here is at the Harvard Business School.
Teamwork is the core of the HBS philosophy. And so, the day before classes even start, Lysandra meets her learning team for the first time.
Hi guys, Lysandra, nice to meet you.
Kiki, nice to meet you.
I met you before.
Welcome to HBS. This is the first day of the rest of your lives. This will be an incredible opportunity. The basic philosophy behind the learning team is to make you look like a rock star in section. Right?
This is the academic equivalent of her platoon, a 6-person study group that will meet almost every day before classes for the entire year. Whether they struggle or soar, it will be together. Their friendships will likely last well beyond their Harvard years.
I'm Kiki Gao, originally from China.
I've been in the military for the last, about 5 years. I was an artillery officer in the Army.
I see the learning team as like kind of my family. I feel a little lost, a lot of new faces.
Groups throughout campus spend the entire day practicing team exercises. But you might wonder why, on this day at Harvard Business School, some of the smartest and most accomplished young people in the world throw small rubber balls and play with Legos.
Time for 4, so 4 would be...
Because 3 feet gives us $0 in profit.
Right.
The goal is to erect a building in the most cost-effective way, in the least amount of time.
I mean, here we are on the campus of Harvard, and you're breaking out the Legos. I mean, you're breaking out toys. Do you get a lot of quizzical looks in the beginning?
Yeah, I think there's a fun memory, too. And then they go, ooh, this is serious. So the team, the learning team here specifically, has to, in a profit margin, create and build a tower. And they measure that against time, material, and
the height, right?
Height.
The number of blocks you use.
Yeah.
And they're judged on all those different metrics.
All those metrics.
And in the beginning, it was kind of a mess. Everybody is throwing out their ideas and nothing really cohesive coming out. But 5 minutes into it, we were gelling better. And those exercises are really good for that, for learning our strengths and weaknesses and how we work together.
The anxiety level on day 1 is high. And so this day, this model that we've designed really helps structure it, channel it, give it some focus.
36 inches.
That anxiety resulted in a restless night's sleep for Michael Fetter. The former business consultant from North Carolina was worried about what kind of classmates he'd wind up with.
Are they going to be, really aggressive? Everyone has tried longer power for everybody, but everyone's been really cool.
What do people say when you tell them what you've done, that you've gotten into this place?
So the first person who, congratulated me when I got into HBS said, congratulations, don't become an asshole. I don't know if I can say that.
You can't.
Okay. Congratulations, don't become a jerk. I kind of was taken aback by that. And I think that, it's hard for people not, look on the outside looking in, to not understand kind of what it's about.
All the students, Michael, Lysandra, their classmates, are just beginning to figure out what this experience will be like, what they're made of, and how much learning, stress, and competition they can handle. What do you worry about at this point?
I'm really worried about balancing everything. I've heard that out of work, play, and sleep, you have to pick two here. And it's really coming true to me because I definitely have FOMO, which is fear of missing out. They warn you about that on the first day. I definitely have it. You know, so I'm really kind of worried about balancing everything that HBS throws at you and picking and prioritizing what I want to do.
With classes in full gear, the honeymoon is over for Lysandra and everyone else, especially this couple who really are back from their honeymoon. And as you'll see, not even love can conquer a full course load. That's next. But first, some former students who've done pretty well look back with some fond and not so fond memories of Harvard Business School.
The first year of business school is one of the most intense times of your life, and there are times that you do feel overwhelmed, really, and from the standpoint of, it's midnight, I've got another case to read, I don't really understand the subject material, gosh, what am I going to do?
It was almost a sadistic approach for first-year students who all wanted to do well and were used to preparing, and you just simply could never get through it.
I remember probably end of October of my first year, the guy who was running the accounting course basically said that I wasn't going to make it.
That first year was just hard, but I think most people came to enjoy it.
I thought I had that. You know those ones who... 1, 2, 3.
Yes, this is that. Just in real flag football. 1, 2, 3. Yes, this is that. Just in real flag football. Starts out, I think, the third week of school. It's just a fun way to get out and have some fun, relive the glory days, and take out a little stress.
Spence and Maureen Miller play hard, work even harder. And these days, they often do both together. They met as undergrads at Princeton, got engaged 5 years later, and last year both enrolled in Harvard Business School. That alone is an overwhelming challenge, but the Millers were also planning a wedding at the same time. They honeymooned in Hawaii and returned on the very morning the classes began this year.
This was just a dream for us to be able to come back to school together, to a place that we both were excited about going.
You weren't a package deal. You didn't apply together.
No, HBS actually doesn't do that.
The odds of admission are pretty slim, and so we knew that we would have to be really lucky. And I was in consulting before I came, and he was in the SEALs, and so our lives were constantly all over the place.
As a Navy SEAL lieutenant, Spence was fighting in Iraq when he applied to Harvard Business School.
I did my interview via phone in a little makeshift shack.
From Iraq?
Yeah.
From Harvard?
Yep.
Really?
I just sent him an email saying, I don't think I'm going to be able to get back to do the on-campus interview. I'm currently in Iraq.
You have to think that as an admissions officer, that's a pretty strong selling point.
Yeah, I think so.
If somebody paid $2.5 million for 5% of the firm, what would the firm be worth?
And now, in their second year, the newlyweds show up for their very first class together, entrepreneurial finance.
That's how we begin to gain market share, by developing a really aggressive sales force.
If you look at what they're doing, they're just selling organization. I mean, this is a company, and I think my wife did it exactly.
The atmosphere in the second year is clearly more relaxed than the awkward tension sometimes found in first-year classes, like Lysandra Rickards.
Who's more profitable, Dale or Butler? Dale or Butler? Dale's a lot more profitable than Butler.
Just a few weeks into school, and she's already feeling the pressure.
Yesterday we had the hardest case. Reading through, there's just so much information, and just to think about how do I start to put this in some kind of structure so I know what's going on and what to do. And it's kind of scary to think about doing it on an exam, and I'm getting kind of nervous now.
But her study group is helping to ease some of that anxiety. They've moved on from playing with Legos to figuring out how to make Dell Computer more productive.
Well, they say that they get shipments almost daily from their suppliers.
And they're also located right next to their suppliers.
Michael Dell never finished college, but the billionaire is a hero to these aspiring entrepreneurs.
He's like 45.
Yes.
He's 19, man. We are behind the curve on this.
First-year students face high expectations, a relentless workload, and the competitive pressure that Maureen Miller remembers all too well.
People are really nervous at the beginning. You're in a room with 90 people who you know are incredible, and probably more incredible than you think you are.
On top of that, there's a new culture to adopt, with its own vocabulary. There's pit diver.
So a pit diver, at the end of class, if folks have questions to ask, they come down to the front right away and get in line to talk to the professor. And they call them pit diving.
And the professor usually makes it explicitly clear that the only participation that counts happens during the 80 minutes when we're in class.
Right.
And so you have to believe that those people are genuinely interested or really, really hopeful.
There's also the chip shot, a lame attempt at class participation.
You may not have done all the case reading, and you just quickly raise your hand and say, that was great, for example. You don't really add anything value to the case discussion, so the professors will say, that was just a chip shot.
And the phrase that rattles the nerves of even confident students, the dreaded cold call.
You start at the beginning of class and you sit there and you know that someone's going to get called.
We need to figure out what's going on in the case. Leo, do you want to open up today again?
Cold calls can go on to start the class for 10 or 15 minutes.
Custom manufacturing, yes.
There's this nervous feeling, regardless of how much preparation you've done, that the minute you hear your name, everything is going to go out of your head.
But what most differentiates Harvard Business School from any other university is the case method. Every class lesson is based on a real-world business problem, difficult challenges that defy easy answers. They feature a protagonist, a central character, normally the CEO, who must arrive at a solution. Each student assumes the role of the protagonist and has to answer a key question. What would you do? Professors prepare for the case as well. Joe Lassiter, one of the most popular teachers here, has been at HBS for 10 years.
I go to a teaching group with my peers, and we talk about the case for typically 30 to 45 minutes.
Let me just show you a board plan.
My job is to take the best people in the class and have them drive the entire class to be far better than they thought they were going to be.
First-year students prepare for cases with their assigned study teams. Second-year students have more informal study groups.
Both opportunities are part of this $100 billion market.
On this day, the Millers focus on a Massachusetts company called Nantero, which had developed the technology to make memory chips using nanotubes, 100,000 times smaller than a human hair.
So it's good to save money.
The co-founder and CEO of Nantero, Greg Schmergel, was faced with a dilemma. His company needed more cash, but most of the venture capital firms he met with urged him to change his business plan. Instead of licensing his technology to a company like Intel, they wanted him to make and market the chips himself. What path should he take?
We would kind of agree that they should probably license the technology.
You want to get rich or be king, and this way he can probably assure that he could probably get rich. But we'll soon find out in class.
Before class starts, Professor Lassiter is already thinking about whom he'll target for the cold call.
I know I've got a semiconductor designer from Texas Instruments. I've got a military communications guy in the class. And I think he and the semiconductor designer will be the two folks that I call on to open, because I think they will make the most compelling arguments for the company and for the product.
Dave, we'll open with you. Okay. And I want you to tell me why the VC guys are so excited about this.
The idea of making everything that we do smaller is sort of a second thing to everybody. So the idea itself sells. It's something that's new and cutting edge.
Okay, I'm sorry, isn't this always true for all of the bubbles?
I suppose so, except
this time it's going to be different.
The students jump into a vigorous analysis and debate, and it's soon obvious how Professor Lassiter maintains his lean physique. he never sits still, relentlessly prodding, provoking, and challenging. As it often happens at HBS, the CEO of the case study sits in and watches as students take a crack at the real-life business decisions he once made.
Let's take his perspective.
Finally, Schmergel, once a student at HBS himself, reveals what he went through and the choices he made at the end of class.
When we were raising money, I talked to many VCs. They've really seen a licensing company succeed, especially in the semiconductor industry.
But he ultimately decided to go against the conventional wisdom and went with his original vision to license his product rather than make it himself.
I think it's always great to hear what they had to say and kind of look at their decision-making process and see if you actually would have made the same decision.
And while most second-year students have adjusted to the strange new world that is Harvard Business School, they must now begin to think about re-entering the real world.
They're through the problem of, did someone make a mistake admitting me? But they're very much in the middle of the issue of, what do I do with my life?
Ultimately, a 5-year plan is, I'd love to start my own business.
I am passionate about education and kind of envision a career between the public and private sector, looking at ways that we can leverage technology to impact education.
What do you wish you knew at the beginning of last year?
I wish I knew how much fun it was going to be.
I wish I'd known how much work it was going to be.
It is a lot of work and a lot of money. 2 years at HBS costs about $160 grand. Is it worth it?
What is the value of these places if Bill Gates didn't go there, if the founders of Google didn't go there?
When we come back, a look at the value of Harvard Business School.
And where did you go to school?
Harvard Business School.
Okay.
And those who question the values it teaches. But first,
the first case was Smucker's Jelly, and the guy that got called on to open was Walter Cook, and he fried. You know, he completely made no sense, and we're all sitting there saying, thank God it wasn't me. Thank God it wasn't me.
The professor would call on someone, and it's completely obvious to everyone that the person hadn't read the case at all.
That must be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, for them, not for them. The rest of us would enjoy watching it happen.
For people who weren't used to doing that type of activity, it brought them out, or in a few cases, it broke them.
The professor just says, Mrs. Moore, begin. Begin what? But life is full of cold calls, and you get cold calls for the rest of your life.
I thought